So first of all, you're going to need scales to measure all of your ingredients. Then you'll need a mixing bowl to mix all of those ingredients together. Or you can use little containers like I do to sort of keep your ingredients separate. You'll need plain flour and plenty of caster sugar. You'll also need butter. I've picked a light kind, so it's a bit more healthier for you. You'll also need baking trays as well as an oven glove so you don't hurt yourself. Very important. I'm also using some vanilla extract just to add some nice flavour to these biscuits. I'm also using chocolate chips. I've got some dark chocolate and some white chocolate chips just to add a bit more flavour to the biscuits really. You can keep them without chocolate chips and they can just be normal shortbread cookies, but I find them to be really nice with some chocolate chips in. I also like to use cookie cutters because then you can make sure all your biscuits are the same size and they look a bit more professional. But if you don't have cookie cutters, you can also use the bottom end of a round glass or anything round shaped really that you've got lying around. You're also going to need some basic utensils like a whisk or a powered one if you've got one, but I haven't at the moment. I'm also using a spoon and a knife, and this is the part where I would tell you need a rolling pin, but I don't have one. So I'm using cling film because I'm so professional and organised. But yeah, that's basically everything you need, so let's crack on with making these cookies. As far as the recipe goes, I'm using the BBC food recipe, which is just a general shortbread recipe. I'll leave everything in the description down below anyway in case you want to make these. It's really simple, really easy. So yeah, let's crack on. I feel a bit like Hannah Hart at the moment. Well, I'm not drunk. There's still time. Okay, so the first really important thing you need to do is preheat the oven to gas mark 5. If you don't have gas marks, then it is 190°C. I don't really know what that means in all honesty, but yeah. Or 375 Fahrenheit. Does that sound okay? Does that sound good? I'll put the recipe below. So oven preheated, and then we can get on with everything else. Because it needs to preheat to be hot enough to cook all the biscuits. Yeah? I don't know what I'm even explaining. I'll just chuck them in the oven and that's it. But yeah, let's crack on with making our biscuits. First of all, you need 125 grams of butter. And I'm just going to put this into one of these little tubs just to keep for now. I mean, if you're being really smart, you probably should have done the butter last because the bowl is covered in butter now, but I'm not that organised, as you can probably tell. Next, you want to take your caster sugar. You can buy any kind of caster sugar. This is just the bog standard one of England that everybody seems to use, so I bought this one. And you want 55 grams or 2 ounces of caster sugar. I'm just going to tip this into another container. Next, you need to take your flour, and you're going to need 180 grams of flour or 6 ounces. This is just plain flour, so yeah, just pop that in. Okay, so there you have your flour. I'm just going to put that into a container as well. And now you can set your scales aside because you don't really need them again. So now you've got your 3 containers with everything in there that you need. Now you're going to want to take your mixing bowl so you can get mixing. What you're going to need to do is put the butter and the sugar in first and beat them together. So here we pop in the butter and the sugar. Just dump it in. Now, I prefer to use my whisk, but if you've got an electronic powered one, like I said before, you can use that. I imagine it's way easier. All you're going to need to do now is beat them together. It's quite hard to do this so that you can see. It doesn't take too long, but it can be annoying if you're using a whisk because that happens. So what you end up with is a smooth consistency, sort of like that. And then you just want to pop the flour in bit by bit. Yeah, you just want to tip it in a bit at a time. Take your time and don't get it everywhere. That's what I normally do. As you're stirring it around, it should sort of become a bit flaky, but then it will come together as it's mixing with the butter. You can't really see that, can you? Sorry. I'm trying not to tip it out, but I'm trying to show you at the same time. After I've stirred it for a while and got flour everywhere, as you can see, this is where I like to add the vanilla essence or vanilla flavouring, whatever you like. A teaspoon seems to be just right, like not too overpowering, so I'm going to stick with that. And this is where I like to use my hands just to mould it together a bit more, because as you can see it's gone a little bit crumbly, but it doesn't matter. You can sort of squish it together. Or if you don't want to use your hands, just use a spoon. And then eventually, after you've stirred it for a while, it will come together and sort of clump together a lot more to sort of create a dough that then you can roll out to make your biscuits. And if you find it's too sticky or too dry, you can always add a little bit of water or a little bit of flour to make it drier or wetter than you need. As you can see now, it's sort of gone into a dough-like consistency that you can really work with. So now what we're going to do is get the flour and put some on the worktop, just so that we can roll it out nice. So grab your flour, just get a handful and put it onto the work surface. You just need a little pinch, as much as you'd like or as less as you like. So I'm just going to sprinkle that all over the worktop. This is mostly because it won't stick if there's flour there, and there's nothing worse than biscuits that stick to your worktop, because you can't get them up again afterwards. Also, I don't claim to know what I'm doing. I've just followed a recipe and I've made some biscuits that a lot of people seem to like, so that's why I'm doing this video. I hope you don't think I'm being like, oh, I can make excellent biscuits, because I'm not. So you're going to need to get your dough out of the mixing bowl and just sort of squish it together a little bit so it's nice and together. With your dough on the counter, this is where you'll need to take your rolling pin if you've got one, or your cling film if you like me. It's always best to put a bit of flour onto your rolling pin, just so that the biscuit dough doesn't stick to it. Obviously, if you've got a rolling pin, use that because it sticks to it a bit more than cling film. Okay, so at this point you just need to roll out your dough. Now the recipe says to leave it at about 1 centimetre thick, because shortbread is quite thick, like it's supposed to be thick. So if you're going to make plain shortbread, you just leave it at that. And you get your cookie cutter and you just cut out as many as you'd like. But I'm going to go for chocolate chip because I love chocolate chip. So instead of putting them in the dough and mixing it up, I like to actually roll the dough on top of them. So I'm just going to scrunch that back up again. And then you get your chocolate chips. As many or as little as you'd like, really. And as I've got 2 flavours of chocolate chip, I'm actually going to separate my dough into 2 piles. And then you just put it on top of it really and squash it down. You can see all the little chocolate chips in there. This one's dark chocolate and this one's white chocolate. That's why I've done it in 2 separate ones. So now I'm just going to roll out the dough again. That's the best thing about this recipe though, you can do it however you like. You can add raisins or, you know, any kind of chocolate chip or nut. So you can make whatever cookies you like, really. So now I'm going to take my cookie cutter and cut out rings. They can come out a little bit misshapen sometimes, but I just work the dough back in so I can cut it out again. I got these cookie cutters from Asda for £1 and you get a set of quite a few different sizes, like really big ones and small ones, and you can use them for pastry as well on the other side. And I thought that was really good value for money. Then all you need to do is transfer those to a baking tray and then set them to chill in the fridge for 5 minutes. Okay, so I've put them on a baking tray and now I'm just going to put them in the fridge for a little bit. You can sprinkle caster sugar on top of them if you like, but I find that a bit too sweet for my taste. But it does taste nice sort of baked in after. They don't take too long, just about 5 to 10 minutes really. You have to keep an eye on them though because they can go golden brown, but then, yeah, you don't want them to burn. This is what happens when you leave them in for too long. I don't know why, but the ones around the edges always seem to burn a little bit, so keep your eye on those. I think the rest of them are okay though. It's just on the edges. But yeah, they're out of the oven about 5 to 10 minutes later with a lot of checking on them. And they look great. After you've taken them out of the oven, you just need to let them cool down a little bit and then transfer them to a cooling tray or a plate. So those were my easy, quick shortbread cookies. Obviously it's not my recipe, I've just tweaked it a little bit by adding chocolate chips. It's not rocket science, but it's a simple and easy recipe, and if you want to make it then make sure you tag me on Instagram or whatever you're using. My username is joysuzannexo on everything really, so. But yeah, if you're going to recreate that, then let me know, I'd love to see it. Hope you enjoyed this video. I know it's a bit different from what I normally do, but I've wanted to do this kind of video for a while. Thanks for baking with me today, and I'll see you next time. Bye!
And I'm eating at the beat like it gave a little speed to a great white shark on Shark Week. Wanna go up, gone, deuces, goodbye.